We know that we are entering a year of fire, and we know that fire is a powerful alchemist. It can be such a big energy, and it can take anything you give it and alchemize it, expand it, amplify it. And so, what we want to do this year is we want to give the fire something to amplify that looks a lot like love, the frequency of love. We want to amplify that frequency. And what does that look like? To be love in action, as Martin Luther King Jr. recommended to us back in the 60s. What does it look like today to be love in action? That is the content of today's conversation. Join us to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show. Soul Nectar Show.
And welcome, everybody. I'm Kerri Hummingbird, host of Soul Nectar Show and medicine woman and a messenger. And I'm here with my beautiful partner, Akeem Sami.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Akeem, and I'm a martial artist. Not a martial artist first, martial artist earliest, but a spiritual healer in multiple modalities, from pranic to shamanic, and also massage therapist. Also a network engineer. How does all that balance? But it all comes together in a beautiful balance.
It all comes together somehow.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're really excited to be back with all of you tonight for our second talk in the Grace Under Fire series that we started this year, because we sensed that these kinds of conversations could be so powerful for 2026 as we enter the year of the fire horse. And that's starting on February 17th. And I feel like it's already gotten started personally.
Yeah, I feel it too.
So, the fire is a very fast acting element. And so this series of talks, Grace Under Fire, is a reflection of the work that we do in inner medicine community. And we're going to be exploring the fiery intensity of 2026 to expand inner freedom, to influence collective healing with grounded, intentional approach to working with these transformative energies. And in part of this series, we're going to be talking about how to be love in action in the midst of fiery reactivity. That's tonight's topic. We'll explore how to move beyond spiritual rhetoric to an actual embodiment of our values. And we will share sacred tools and rituals for doing the transformational work of 2026, because we have agency. We have agency. We're not helpless. The trap that life's circumstances are leading us to fear, that we don't have agency, that we can't do anything with the things that are happening around us. But actually, we have a lot of agency, and we have the ability to work with ancient energies, such as Tatawari, the great spirit of fire, to help us to transmute these energies and to bring forth more of what we'd like to see in the world. And so we really supporting you and everyone in this series, Grace Under Fire, to have hope and faith and to cultivate some resiliency, to be present with what's unfolding, and also to realize how much agency we actually have. We can move from a vision of your purpose into daily intentional practice to bring it about. And so this is the second talk of our series. The topic is being love through the fire. And I just want to give a nod to Martin Luther King, because you're going to be hearing a lot about him tonight and how we relate to his teachings. And so we thought we would begin by defining what is love, because if we don't really know, if we're not on the same page with what we define as love, then how are we going to move together towards a common resolution? And we'd love to hear your reflections in the chat if you're online with us as we go along. If you're on social, I can't really see you right now, but I promise I'll respond later as I go back and review things. But what is love? And so Martin Luther King Jr. defined love really in terms of action, love in action. Like, it's not light and love, just sending somebody light and love. I mean, there's nothing wrong with sending somebody light and love, right? But prayers up and all this kind of stuff, it helps. But love in action. And he defined this as a powerful, organized force for justice. So here's a couple of quotes, things that MLK said about what is love. He said, power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice. Justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love. So love is correcting everything that stands against love. That's powerful. Also, another thing he said, I think of love as something strong that organizes itself into powerful, direct action. Love is something strong that organizes itself into powerful, direct action. And then many people know this quote, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And so when I feel the impact of these words, what it tells me is that love is not passive. It's not passive. It's not an idea. It's a feeling and it's an action. What do you feel, Akeem?
Well, love is many things. It has the opportunity to be expressed through grace. And grace is, some would think that grace is like an angelic, and that it is softness. You're thinking like the wings, protection, safety, but it's almost like this way of moving. It's strength with restraint. There's the capability, there's always been the opportunity or potential for a certain act. It could be a violent act. It could be a peaceful act. It could be a love act that could be a lot more neutral. But ultimately, it comes down to grace. And grace under fire is not about being passive or nice, like what you said. And it's disciplined strength to not hand over your nervous system over to chaos or to another person. It's when the pressure hits, there's this peace within you that stays solid, it stays grounded, and stays together, saying, I stay within my power, aka sovereign. So that's what I mean when I also say sovereignty, because sovereignty is ultimately knowing and having your own particular guidance system, having your own direction, and having your way of operating a certain way, and not letting it be sacrificed by someone's outlandish act or some outlandish, crazy situation that's happening in your life. Some would like to put a face over it so that they have a singular thing. And some also carry their problems over to other people when really it's giving you an opportunity to be in your power and see those moments when you fell out of your own power. In essence, that you'd give away your power to the moment or to the person. So this is an opportunity, from my perspective, to redirect the typical default shadow, which is also self-judgment when you've made a mistake or when someone's doing something and then there's this part within you that wants to rise up and explode. You have to be able to reframe it. There's something about that, at least in my experience. For me, I'd have to reform it. And when I say reform it or reframe it, this is like me making a statement that this is the moment that's showing me where I still outsource my power. And you can actually have a practice that helps you do that. So compassion within yourself, it stabilizes faster than any self-judgment that you could have. So if you start with yourself as you're experiencing the moment, it can all happen in a split second, but it takes practice. It also takes you giving yourself this grace. And once you have it, you've built up a repository of self-grace. And as a result, you have it to share outward into the world.
You know, when you were saying that the repository built up, I was feeling in myself that statement that you can't give what you don't have.
Right.
You know, and so one of the major things, right, about love is that we've got to turn it inside first. We've got to really turn that love lens inside and bring ourselves a lot of love for the journey that we've had, for the journey that we've each walked, whatever that journey looks like. We've each had a journey that felt to us very likely challenging. And if we compared ourselves to someone else, we might say, oh, well, my journey wasn't all that challenging compared to you. But if we just stay with ourselves, we might realize it's challenging. And so that those challenges are there to help us to open up to more self-acceptance and self-love, and to fill up that inner reservoir of self-love, self-compassion, self-acceptance. I love Richard Rudd's words: allow, accept, embrace. These are the words from the Gene Keys. Allow it to be. You know, there's parts of me that are so fiery, that are like, that's not right. And I would literally get a pitchfork, you know, if I didn't stop myself, then I'd be out there on the streets. And so, you know, that part of me, I've got to love that part of me. That part of me has been around since I was a little kid, defending my mom against a very abusive person. And so I honor that part of me that's like got the pitchfork, you know. But love is calling me forth to a higher vibration than fear. Love is calling me forth. I want to show this graphic because we were talking about this earlier. Love is calling me forth to realize that it's a higher frequency. So when we look at this chart of the power versus force matrix, this is from the work of David R. Hawkins, and the book is Power versus Force. I've created this graphic to represent what he discovered about the frequencies of different emotions that we can experience in our human reality. And if you look at love is up on the power matrix. It's way up there. It's 500, you know, love and reverence. And it's cushioned in by joy and reason and understanding and serenity. And so, but we're not always in that frame of mind when we realize this is a matter of love. Sometimes we're down in that force matrix. We're in righteous anger, where our frequency is at 150. And we're like, this is not okay with me. Or we might be even lower. We might be in fear down at 100. Or we might be at grief at 75. We might even be feeling shame all the way down at 20. Like, this is not love. We might feel humiliated. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. This isn't what I signed up for. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of this. I'm ashamed of myself for believing it. We can be all the way down at the bottom of the scale, beating ourselves up for love. And so what we want to do is be aware of this matrix and bring self-love to all that's happening within ourselves. Bring self-love. You can bring love from the top, from the power, all the way down to the bottom to shame. You can bring love down there. You can bring love down to guilt and blame. You can bring love down to apathy and despair. You can bring love down to grief and regret. You can bring love to fear and anxiety. You can bring love to desire and craving. You can love that desire through yourself. You can even bring love to your anger. You can bring love to your anger, like, this is teaching me what matters to me. This is teaching me my moral compass. This is teaching me how I really feel about things. And so we can bring the energy of love to any other position in this whole matrix, and it can transmute that energy for us. It can actually help transmute the energy so that the traumas that are stirred up in our bodies from whatever we're witnessing and giving us that force reaction down in the lower half, that those traumas can be healed with the elixir of love. And then we can be in a completely different place for being love in action. Because if we're in the force part of the matrix and we're being action, we're probably being action from force and fear, from anger, from pride, from grief, from shame. We're trying to be love, but we're being it from a different place. So what we want to do is bring love to ourselves, love to the wounds, love to our ancestors, so that we can be the pure energy of love that can transmute all that comes before it. What are your thoughts about that, Akeem?
Well, it brings to mind when looking at this. This, by the way, is a really awesome scale. It is a wonderful way to see it all come together and put together. In seeing this, I have to first be within myself and find my own alignment. And as I've done my contemplations about it, I've received the insight that I can feel any range of any of these emotions. Any of these emotions I could feel at any given moment. I am not above or below any other person or any other being. And because I hold that affirmation, I allow myself the grace that I spoke about earlier. So, in my observation, uh, I see it actually go through the entire scale. Sometimes, one event, I could go through maybe 5 or 6 of those in sequence. And I could even skip from one to the other. But ultimately, it's about not shaming myself, and, it also goes back to with fire energy, how you choose to use it. So I have a statement that I'd like to share with everyone, and you could turn this into your own personal affirmation. This one is an affirmation for myself. This is something that I've personally taken the charge to embody in my life for many years. The statement is, I do my best to meet my true expression with stillness first, then respond and share in a way that is truly authentic. So I'll give you an example of what that looks like from practical life experience. So in my earlier years, I was a fighter in a martial arts. In my particular dojo or kun, I would travel to other classes. I would participate in tournaments. Some were really knock 'em, sock 'em. You feel like rock 'em, sock 'em robots. I definitely did feel like that a few times. You put on some gloves, the other person puts on some gloves, and then you hit each other. And then the goal is the other person gets knocked out. Now, in the process of training with all of this, it is being out of those environments where you're fighting fire with fire. Fire with fire is only going to up and then up. So as I meet myself in a way that's authentic, I began to see and experience. One person came into our dojo, and he was so anxious to prove himself. And this shows up many times this way, right? It's this person is a little bit hurt, or they're afraid of their capability, or they want to test their capability. So they test it, but they don't use it with wisdom, which means they're hurting people. I'd see the same person spar some other lower belts, and they would hurt them, kick them, punch them a certain way, or they'd roughhouse them a certain sort of way. And I was the assistant instructor in my class at that particular time with my master. And I stepped in to be the next person that person sparred. So I stepped in, and you would think that I saw that person harming the other person. So would my objective be that I'm going to harm him back and put him on the floor? I've heard many stories from many dojos from the 70s, 80s, as well as the 90s that did exactly that. The enforcer would knock this person to the ground and give them what for, and you see hear an energy there, right? You're thinking about that scale we just looked at. You're seeing where you could easily just ratchet up to something else and try to knock the other person out, which you'd go from sparring that's what this environment was that I had moved to at the moment in my dojo. It was sparring. It wasn't intended to, oh, rock'em sock'em robots. So I took the opportunity to work with this person. I wanted to be the next person to work with this person next. So as that person used his techniques, he noticed that his techniques were not completely as effective as he wanted them to be. So he would ratchet it up. He would use more strength. I would parry. I would redirect. I would let his energy move in, and then I directed another. Now, in some martial arts, they tell you to take that energy and smack the person in the face with their own energy. While I've tried that and done that, this was not one of those environments that you do that. So I met the moment with my truest expression of authenticity, and I also met my role. My role was assistant instructor, which is a teacher. So I also was making an example for all the other students in the class, all of the younger belts, lower belts. And I needed to make an example of a person that stays still and steady and ready, but does not try to dismantle and does not try to destroy. So I redirected all of his movements. He got to a point where he was exhausted, and I traded some light shots. It wasn't at all complimentary. It was just keeping things going just enough to help him use up his energy. And at the very end, you believe it? He saw the moments that I could have harmed him. He witnessed that I could have really kicked him in the side of the head, or I could have foot swept him, or I could have given him a ground shot to knock him down to the ground, like he was afraid would happen a few times. But he noticed that I did not. Sometimes that's pulling punches, but sometimes that's using discernment that there's an environment and you meet the environment with the challenge. And he had his heart open at the very end. He realized that he was a little bit past himself because he felt like he wasn't so good. He actually ended it. We ended it with a hug. And many sparring sessions ended up like this with many a person that came from out to in. They're afraid, they're nervous, they also want to prove themselves. So this is that opportunity to see something and then redirect it, but then also reframe it to something that becomes something peaceful. And as a result, it became like a bit of a rites of passage for him. He felt like he was in his power without me having to dismantle him. He witnessed that I could have, and I did not. So there's a humbleness that's involved with this, and there's also a respect that it instantly commands because I know my power, and I show it, and I reflect it in a way that's authentic to me.
I love everything you just said, and it makes me really notice how part of what made that work is that you know who you are in truth.
Yes.
And when we know who we are in truth and we know our moral compass, what we stand for, our integrity line, like what is the line that we're not going to cross? Like what's the vision we hold for our interactions with others? What is it that calls us forth in relationship and doing whatever it is we're out there doing, talking with someone or being in purpose or having a debate? What is our purpose? What is our inner moral compass? What's our intention? When we know what those things are, when we're really clear within ourselves, that's an act of self-love because we're loving ourselves enough to know what we stand for and to not cross that, to know what's important to us and to pursue that. Like knowing that it was important to you to guide and mentor this young man was important for you because that gave you the information you needed to know that you weren't going to take him when he was down. You were going to give him some dignity and you were going to let him know you could have done it, but not in a way that also humiliated him. So it's like you're really showing yourself in your true colors, who you are here to be. And you're honoring that. And when we don't honor that, when we don't honor that inner compass, when we don't honor that moral code, what ends up happening is that we go against ourselves. And in the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, this is called not being impeccable with your word. You're not being impeccable with yourself. You're not being aligned with who you truly are on the inside. So important to be aligned with that. This is why I don't let Kerri with the pitchfork outside, when she's all activated. No, I like, okay, I love you, sweetheart, but that's not who I am in the world. That's part of me that has a reaction. That's part of me. Her heart is hurt. She's wants some justice, but that's not who I am in the world. Who I am in the world is a peacemaker. I love this new reframe, not a peacekeeper. We're not keeping any peace. There's no peace to keep. You're trying to keep the peace. You're going to step all over yourself and be like walking across broken eggshells. No, we're not keeping any peace. We are peacemakers. Love in action. We make the peace. How do we make the peace when the fire is so hot? And so this is one of the things that Akeem and I know a lot about because we're fire walk instructors. We lead people across 1,300-degree hot coals several times a year as an empowerment exercise to realize that, whatever you think is true about life is probably about as true as whatever you think about fire, which is not true. And when you realize that fire doesn't always burn you, then you realize that, fire isn't evil. It's not all bad. It's not stay away from it. Oh, I'm terrified. I wouldn't put my bare feet on that. And then when you dance across the hot coals, and not only once, but like a dozen times because it's so fun. Yeah, a guy is saying, I've been to many of those fire walks and I so love the transformation. You get high off fire. I'm just telling you, people, it's another way to get high, but it's a good high. It's a fire high. And when you walk across those hot coals, you just get so lit up, so lit on the inside. And we can get lit from passion. Passion is another fire energy. We can get really lit from passion. And when you're lit from passion, that's exciting. That feels good in the body. It's really exciting to be lit. And so there's ways to interact with fire. We literally do not have to interact with fire only through vitriol and anger and hatred. That's just one end of the spectrum. That's one end of the spectrum that people might leverage fire, or fire might actually leverage them in that way if their frequency is like that. But if we're lifting our frequency and we're really holding true to our center and we're being the person that we said we are to ourselves in the mirror, so important to be the person you say to yourself in the mirror that you are, and to actually be that person. That's love in action for yourself. And it ends up benefiting a whole lot of other people. But the primary thing is that you're doing it for yourself. This is important to you. And so you're going to stand up and say what you need to say, or you're going to bring your body somewhere you need to bring it to demonstrate your love in action. And you're going to be a stand for what you stand for. And so that is what I believe this time is calling us forward. And the fire is going to work with every single person uniquely because it's a very intelligent energy. So if you need a swift kick in the butt, fire is going to give it to you this year. Just letting you know ahead of time. I don't know how to say I told you so later on when you come back and you say, you were so right. But if we can approach fire with humility, with respect, with curiosity, and asking for guidance from the spirit of fire, help me to alchemize myself. Help me to be the strongest version of me that I can be, the most conscious version of me that I can be, the most compassionate, the most loving, whatever is important to you, so that you can work with fire to alchemize the parts of you, like my little Kerri with her pitchfork. We can alchemize that so that those aspects take a backseat and we love on them, we include them, but we don't let them lead. We don't let them take the actions. We want our soul to be in the driver's seat. We want our soul to have the microphone. We want our soul to be the one that's taking the actions, the choreographer of our life story. We want our soul to be that. And this is such a powerful time on the planet to step into that soul sovereignty and to be that love in action. Like if you ever wondered who would you have been in the civil rights movement in the 60s, this is your opportunity to figure that out right now. Fire is going to teach you. Fire is it can blaze you up with passion. It can make you so lit and so excited and on fire for your purpose and for change in the world and for your own desires and joy and happiness and creativity and all the really wonderful things. Or it can literally suck the life out of you through argument, through conflict, through hatred, through bitterness, through fear. And the fire is going to treat every single person uniquely based on what they need as part of their soul's curriculum. It's going to be different for everyone. But you can guarantee that where there's fire, there's intensity. And so if you're feeling the intensity of the fire, or you're feeling like this is getting too intense for me, you can resort to the other elements. You can balance it out. And this is one of the reasons why also animal allies are potent, why we're bringing bear, the energy of bear, into our program this year, our inner medicine training, is because bear is all about presence, going within, going inside the cave, looking inside, understanding things, slowing everything down, hibernating on it, taking a breath, taking a pause. And for some of you, can feel like so slow. But if you incorporate bear, it's going to really help you not to be so reactive with everything else going on and the fire heating up. Fire will give you so many blessings. It really is a beautiful element. And lots of alchemy possible this year. Great time to be in spiritual community, doing some deep personal reflection work, doing some work to see what you want to alchemize through the fire, what you want to feed the fire to change something in your life. What is that? And Akeem and I have created a beautiful offering that we're really excited to have people be part of. And it's called Ride the Fire Horse Experience. And it's intended to be a 30-day experience of inner medicine community where you are gifted several meditations and like a clearing meditation, a grounding meditation, a nighttime dream time meditation, a morning start your day in sacred space meditation to set yourself off with a nice buffer against all the reactivity, and some ceremonies of fire ritual to work with the element of fire, and another ritual to call your power back, because we're probably it's going to move quickly this year. Fire can move very, very quickly, and you might lose some power back there. Like you might have an interaction and lose a bucket worth of power over there and forgot about it. And we want to teach you how to call it back to yourself so that you can call it back through the fire, purified back to yourself, so that you're always working with your full reserves, all of your energy. And so, yeah, we'll find out more about that in the show notes. If you're looking at this on the podcast or anywhere else, the show notes, Ride the Fire Horse Experience. Or if you're part of our email list already for Grace Under Fire live series, you'll get that in the email replay. And we just really encourage you to sign up, try us out for 30 days and see what it's like to walk the magical, the magical path of inner medicine community. We live a very charmed life. It's quite interesting what happens when all of us agree and collude on sacred space. Isn't that so, Akeem? We have a totally different experience, don't we?
It's always authentic and it's always potent. And that potentness doesn't have to blow you over. It can be stillness in practice and to actually witness it. And then the moment that you begin to feel it inside yourself is golden. And, I like that you brought up animals and as it connects with elements and also coordinating with elements. Those are some things that we're going to speak to as well in the class. It speaks a lot to it. Now, I was also seeing that we had a comment saying, what does that say about fire signs? And I felt like you answered that very well just a few moments ago, Kerri, talking about fire as a transformative tool connection is the way I understood your share just now, and that it's crucial. And also, I see Sarah here also had an excitedness to work with bear. So interesting you'd say bear. That connects with what Kerri just said. Now, there's also some share that I'm going to have next week, and it's actually celebrating Chinese New Year. as we switch formally into the fire horse. I'll be talking or showing, maybe some of both, usually both, a bit about how these elements connect and how the animals connect. And this will connect with our suggested daily schedule. So, yeah. I would love to see each of you there.
Yeah, and I guess as things get really heated up, right? And busy and chaotic and it's like you're just drowning in details. I like to call that the chop on the top of the water. That's where the wind is blowing the waves and it's like real choppy. And so there's not a lot of power in the chop. If you want power, you got to get under the chop, like deep in the ocean. That big presence.
Now you're talking about surfing.
That part of you that knows that you are a soul, that you are beyond this thing called time, that time is just a construct, that time does not own you. You direct time, not the other way around. And so you got to get to that deep part of yourself that knows that to be true. And that happens in the stillness, which is why we're bringing Bear in, okay? Because it's going to help you drop into that deep ocean calm underneath the chop. And then you can be looking up at the chop going, wow, there's a lot of chop today. But you don't have to be thrown out yourself. You're in your center. You're grounded. You're present. You're in your deep, wise self, your soul self, the one that's beyond time. And that's what we want to help people access. But the funny little sort of dichotomy here is that in order to experience that, you've got to decide that you're willing to sacrifice some precious time in order to have more time. You've got to decide that you're willing to sacrifice some resource in order to have more resource.
Right.
And you've got to believe it's possible. And we can sit here and tell you all day long that it is, because we already know it is. But we're just telling you that's the decision you have to make. Do you want more time? Do you want more resource? The first place you have to start is by sacrificing what you think of as time and resource, dedicating yourself to 15, 20 minutes a day in little chunks throughout the day, not all at once, to be part of this experience and to give yourself some grace, because grace comes from that timeless one within. We want to open up as much access to the timeless one within as we can. And that is going to give you more and more time and more resource as you come out of fight or flight and you realize that you've been giving your power away to time. And you've been giving your power away to chaos. And you've been giving your power away to fear. And so we want you to stop doing that. We want you to give your power to love, to presence, to groundedness, to truth, and to yourself. So you can really fully embody this life experience and enjoy it. Even in the midst of all that's going on, there can be both. And yes, it's happening. Terrible things are happening that are unspeakable and that make me feel angry. And I have a timeless soul at the helm that is guiding me forward to remember to be at the frequency of love, because the frequency of love can meet everything that comes before it and transmute it. I give my power to love, says Sarah. I give my power to presence, and so it is. Yes. And we have compassion, and we are human, and we let ourselves feel the feels. We just don't let ourselves go off the deep end and give all our power away, right? We want to harness that power so we can use it to be love in action, in aligned action. So I really enjoy it. I didn't know what we were going to talk about today. I knew kind of basically what we were going to talk about, but I really like what the ancestors brought through us tonight. Akeem, how are you feeling about it?
Yes, this is all perfectly aligned. Look forward to seeing any of you that show up next week as well.
Yep, we have a few more talks scheduled for the Grace Under Fire series. And so we welcome you to sign up for that. You can find the link in the show notes below, or you can go to kerrihummingbird.com, Kerri, hummingbird.com to find access to Grace Under Fire and to ride the Fire Horse experience. Woohoo! All right, you guys, let's go get them. We love you. Go be love in action. Love to yourself first in the mirror. I love you. I love you. I love you. And we'll see you next week. Mwah. Bye for now, everyone.
If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now. To dive in deeper to nourishing conversation, visit soulnectar.show.
Soul Nectar Show. Awaken, awake to show. Take a sip from the drip of nectar, from the source of who you are.